Good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a fun day yesterday. Before we do a review of yesterday, let's take a look. Our economic calendar. Today, being Thursday, is kind of the first release of economic data this week that's gonna maybe have any impact. We have our jobless claims and manufacturing index all dropping at 8:30, and then tomorrow we have PMI at 9:45, so a little after the bell tomorrow. Let's see. So a quick review of yesterday. We talked about in prep, as long as ES can hold the daily 50, we can continue higher into this daily squeeze and up to this zone at 39.53, 39.61 that we rejected overnight before yesterday. So just kind of reviewing what we talked about in prep. As long as we can hold the 50, we can revisit where we rejected. We got back up to that zone, through that zone, pushed a little further, but you can see a 30-minute squeeze, I think that is. Hourly. So you can see an hourly squeeze popped up right at our highs that we kept rejecting, that hourly squeeze, and came back down. And we based right at some of those pre-market levels before heading back to high of day. Didn't quite get to high of day before stalling out and coming back to that key level. Overnight, basically just bounced around that zone and squeezed tops. And coming into today, we are stacked up on squeezes. We've got a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, as we sit at the top of this daily squeeze. So the premise for today and kind of the rest of the week is going to be pretty simple. We came off of the moving averages up to this daily squeeze top and this key zone. We have rejected, but then gotten through a couple of times. And now we chop around at this zone. I went ahead and drew a zone of support that spans from yesterday's pre-market low to that midday low, right? And I've projected that forward. So the premise gets pretty simple here. As long as we can hold this zone, this daily 50, we can continue to try to push higher against this daily squeeze. Since we pushed against it yesterday and stayed up here, it's starting to open up, right? To get it to open up and fire, we have to continue to keep pressing against it. And now that we've arrived up here, this zone should become support. We should keep coming back to activate all of our buyers to try to keep going higher, right? Once this zone starts to give out in that daily 50, then we'll start to go back to engulf some of this price action. But as long as we can continue to hold this zone, we can keep dipping to it. Now all of our squeeze bottoms are right in it, so we can dip down to those to find support to go higher. And these key levels can provide support as well to keep trying to truck through yesterday's high and higher, up to 4,000 To get out of this squeeze, we have to get north of 40.20. And then we have that daily Keltner. Looks like it's the second Keltner up. Yeah. That second Keltner up above at 40.50. So let's see if we can continue to truck higher, holding these key levels in this little zone of support from yesterday. Sorry. Let's see. So yeah, with all of these squeezes in place, it could be a choppy day up at the top of the squeeze. Daily squeeze, I mean. But we have our pre-market low at that 39.45, pre-market high 39.74. So we've got our range set and our squeezes. I'll be playing off of these squeezes in this range until it breaks. As we get near the bottom of these squeezes in this support zone, I'll be going long. And as we get near highs, I'll be locking up and looking at shorts. If we just start to dump into this zone, I'll be looking to play long to get out of it. But if we reject the top, I'll also be looking at shorts to go through. But we did get through our Netflix and Tesla earnings. Let's go pull up the earnings real quick. We had Netflix on Tuesday. Excuse me. We had Netflix on Tuesday. We had Tesla yesterday. We also had some, Discover Card, United, ASML, NASDAQ. Plenty of stuff reported yesterday. Today, we got AT&T, American Airlines, yada yada before the bell, Dow. After the bell, Snap, Capital One, Mattel. And tomorrow we got Twitter, American Express, Verizon. So nothing too big for tomorrow or today, really. And always come check out our earnings channel if you want to kind of get some of the numbers and reports and links. It all coming from Earning Whispers out there. Oh, and one thing I wanted to cover as well, if we look at some of our awesome trade results from yesterday. Let's see, let's pull up QQQ because that's the first one. I can tell you, we nailed this long entry on QQQ playing the 300s, 302s. I think those 300s I got in for like 85 cents and they got up near $4 or $5. But we played NQ long off of this Keltner and off of our Burger Bottom up to the outer shaded region. We played the 305 puts back down to VWAP. And then some of us played the 302s, 303s back up. And if we pull this up, here's a little example on the 302 call. How we opened the day, hit our burger top, came back to hit our burger bottom. Our beast levels here, where we like to buy. Rode those up from, we'll call it 30-40 cents up to about 260 at the highs. So that's what, like a 5-6x, almost a 7x. Amazing trades to the upside. Some of us played the 395 put on SPY. From like $1 to 250. As you can see, we crushed the 305 put, 395 call, 395 put. And there's that 305 put that we hit on the drop midday. Perfect call out. Where it settled at our beast level, started to pop, came back for one more tap of our beast level at about $1.67 is where most of us averaged in. And those took off to about $4.50 at the highs. So, was a very nice day yesterday in the room. Let's go back. We covered ES, we'll move on to NQ. On NQ, oh, I like this. You can see that daily squeeze, since NQ has been hitting it so hard, opened up, and after yesterday, opened up even more, so that it's no longer red, which is mid compression, now it's getting to low compression. Meaning that this could fire in a day or two if we just keep pushing against it. On NQ, I did the same, connecting the low from pre-market to the low where we based midday to try to mark where our support should be sitting. We also have a daily Keltner there, that first Keltner up from the mean, as a key level in the middle of that zone, well, not in the middle, but in that zone, so that we could take a dip down to tap that zone and that daily Keltner to keep going higher. Should we start to lose that daily Keltner, lose this zone and these trend lines, then we could see a decent drop back to 12,100 and 12,000, where the daily 21 and daily 50 now sit, overlapping and crossing each other. So if we are going to see a reversal off this daily squeeze top, just talking about a thesis, which is I like to try to do if this then that statement. So if we're going to reverse off of this daily squeeze top to come back down, our first signs are going to be slipping into these squeeze bottoms, losing this daily Keltner, losing these trend lines that we've bounced at, and falling out of this zone back to the key targets below. We could just tag that daily 8 and get right back up, showing that we are still bullish. We could also just keep on trucking. We don't have to come back to test this, but we've ran into some buyers yesterday a couple of times. Chances are we might run into those buyers again. I'm sorry, sellers. We might run into these sellers again that held us down from going any higher. So if we do struggle a little bit at these squeeze tops, we might take a dip to those bottoms and back to this zone and daily Keltner to find support and take off further. If she can keep trucking, 12,500 is a very key level. So if we can get over that and turn it into support, you can see we only peeked our head over it yesterday, about 17 points. So if we can get over it and turn it into support, we could truck on up to the next daily Keltner outside of this daily squeeze. If we could close above this daily squeeze today, then it will most likely fire. We can also just sit in all of these squeezes and go sideways. That would still cause this daily to open up more and more, since we're just sitting at the top of it. So those are the simple theses for today. Let's see if this support zone can hold. If it starts to give out, we know where it's going, right back to 12,000. daily 50, daily 21, right? Ready. Ready was pretty strong yesterday, and it actually did set a new high late in the day. So there is some pretty strong small cap rotation. You know, I'd kind of say the Ready and NQ led the charge yesterday. So let's see. Big key level on Ready is that 1800. You can see on Tuesday that run up basically stopped at 1800. Then we got over it, came back for a little test, took off again. So as long as we stay over 1800 to 1810 where that daily Keltner is, we'll be doing all right. And the Ready can continue higher. 1900 is also a very key level, and that's where the third Keltner sits. It's quite a ways away. It'll take a couple of days to get there, but that is the next big key target. I've covered this in the past, and we just haven't been near 1900 in a while, but breaking 1900 was a couple of months ago. The next sign that we are definitely going to some new lows of the year, right? So, let's see if the Ready can hold up above 1800 today. If it starts to break down, back to the daily 21, daily 50. YM. So, you know, looks a lot different than NQ and the Ready that were kind of just straight up yesterday until midday. YM dipped, got going a little, and then dipped, couldn't get going any further, and then started that midday slip across the market. So YM definitely weaker in as far as accumulation, rotation, going higher. But a range has been set, you know. Yesterday's high and low is going to set the tone for YM. If we can get going back over 31,800, get through yesterday's high and yesterday's pre-market high, we can see some rotation into YM and it actually get going. But if we start breaking down below yesterday's lows from cash session, we're going to test that daily 50 as the squeezes are right at it. So YM could slip to that daily 50 in these squeezes. Should that daily 50 start to give out, we'll fire these lower time frame squeezes to the bottom, to the downside, geez, and back to the daily 21. 31,500, a big psychological key level. And that daily 50 sits right above it. So that is a good zone of support. It's also where we rejected on Monday. So we could slip there to test that before heading higher. We'll have to see. With all these squeezes stacked, we could just go sideways on YM. And as we saw yesterday, even YM going sideways, we can see ES and NQ and the Ready go higher. Apple. Been clearly trading up in this channel. Started to break out of it yesterday before coming back. And Apple has pulled up to our next key zone. 153.85, 154.7. We are also kind of straddling that second Keltner, which will be stepping up to our zone today. If Apple can continue through this zone, the next stop is that third Keltner up and that daily 200, making a nice little target right around that 158. but 155 will be a struggle to get through. It's a very key level. You'd have to go back to last year. We stayed under 155 for a long time. Then once we broke through, we stayed above 155 for like well over 6 months, even into this year. Once we broke 155 this year, it spelled a big drop down to our 131, 130 level. So now we are back almost at 155. I guess we could take a quick look for our... Come on, load it in. So here you can see that 155. When we started the new year and things started selling, it was straight to 155, big bounce, again, then it gave out, and then down, down, down. So now we're back at that big key 155. If we can get through there and turn it into support, we're starting to mark a pretty big change. But we are dealing with being pretty high in our Keltners, so we can pull up, even get above it. We can pull up, even get above it, test that third Keltner. But then at some point we're going to have to take a little bit of a break and let all of these moving averages and Keltners catch up. So, Apple been leading the charge. Let's see if it wants to continue, get above this zone, test that 155. That is the big key target right now. And if we can get through that, the daily 200 and that third Keltner up above. If Apple starts to give out this 152, where we bounced midday yesterday, we'll start to fire these squeezes down. We have the next squeeze at the low from yesterday. So same kind of zone on every name. You could kind of create that zone that we might go to test today for support before heading higher. But man, Apple just looks like it wants to keep trucking. AMD. We talked about this last week, that chips look like they might be ready to get going, and that proved to be true. They were strong on Monday even, before everything sold off. And as you can see, each day, pretty much straight up at open. And even for new highs after that midday break. So let's see how we deal with this 89.52. We're above first Keltner, coming up near second, and we're at that daily 50. Let's see if we can hold that daily 50, get through this 89.52 through yesterday's high to keep trucking. That third Keltner sits at 95. Pretty funny how we can go from second Keltner to almost third Keltner in just a couple of days. If we start to give out that daily 50, we're going to come back to test the bounce point from midday, maybe even that low back near 85. Amazon. You can see, on Monday, if you look at ES and Q, we went a little sideways and then dumped, but there, if you look at individual names, there were strong names that held up for half the day before the dump. So those are the names that you'll see rotation into once we get going again, right? 2 very strong days for Amazon, and still trying to push a little bit this pre-market. So at the very least, let's see if we can continue to hold above 121 to keep on trucking up to this 2-day squeeze top and that third Keltner that sits up at 128. If we start to lose this 121, going back to test 120, should that give out, then it's back to that 117, 118. BA. Let's see, strong day Tuesday, yesterday just kind of hung out. But you can see daily squeeze and 2-day squeeze opening up and opening up. That daily squeeze is pretty close to firing. In fact, if we just stay up here today, that daily squeeze will fire on BA. So let's see if it can stay above 155. Should that give out, we might just slip right on back to 150. But if we can keep trucking through 160, trying to get to 164. Cat, not a lot of interest. Gonna leave that alone. Google. Decently strong in the morning yesterday, but then kind of gave it out and didn't really get going again. Let's just see if Google can stay above the daily moving averages if we start to see a dip in the market. As long as we can continue to hold there at squeeze bottoms and daily moving averages, we can try to get going again to push through yesterday's high. In a bid to get to that 116, 117, where that first Keltner sits. GS. Strong day Tuesday, and held above that 315, and even got above 320 yesterday. Closed above it. Let's see if we can stay above 320. If we lose that, go into test 317. But if we can hold 320 and keep on trucking, we're at that second Keltner, trying to push to the third, up at 330. JPM, no real interest. It's not getting rotation into it as much as GS. JPM went down on earnings, GS went up on earnings. JPM's basically just recovered back to where it was before earnings, and it's sitting at its daily moving averages, so not a lot of interest there. Meta. Again, on Monday I talked about how strong that pop was on Meta, and closing basically flat. We could start to see some strong rotation into it, and that's what we've gotten 2 days in a row. In fact, she pushed for new highs towards the end of the day when not every name did. Like we just looked at Google and it kind of sat where it pulled back. Meta kept on trucking. So, getting above this daily squeeze, which it says is still intact, so we'll see that pop up over here. That should be the zone of support, basically, as we dip down. If we dip down to test 180, that daily squeeze top will be sitting there as support. As long as we can hold that, we can keep trucking through. Yesterday's high, that second Keltner, which will be coming in closer to 185, in a bid to get back to 190, and that third Keltner. Should that 180 to 178 give out, that daily 50, we could start to come back to test 175. And if that gives out, back to the daily moving averages. Microsoft. Decently strong yesterday off its moving averages, but then came back, dropped overnight, and now it's going to be opening near its moving averages. So, kind of not as much relative strength in Microsoft, but as long as it can hold its daily moving averages, it can try to get going again back to yesterday's highs. Back to that 265. If it starts to lose these moving averages, back to 254. Netflix. Run up into earnings. Big old pop on earnings. But then it gave this big drop pre-market that can set up to where we're opening close to flat, and you can see a good push again right back up to where we were. Netflix, let's see if we can stay above 215 in a bid to get back to 220, 225. But we are up at that third Keltner, believe it or not. So we could just sit up here and then potentially reverse back to moving averages. So let's see if we can stay above 215. Keep tracking. If we start to lose that, back to 210 for a test. And if we keep looking weak, 205, 200. Nvidia. Big strong day for Nvidia yesterday. Opened near that daily 50, didn't even need to tap it, took off from first Keltner to second Keltner and hit it twice. Now sitting right up near those highs with all these squeezes. So like everything else, use the squeeze as your range for today. Play the range till it breaks, going long at the bottom, short at the top. And yeah, if we can hold 175, get through 180. It's a goal to get to 185, maybe 188 at the highs for the third Keltner on Nvidia. QQQ. All right, QQQ up in its daily squeeze. You can see yesterday we peaked out for just a second, then we went to the bottom and found support to keep going higher. Let's see if QQQ can stay above 300, and we'll just call it 301 in the bottom of that squeeze. As long as we can stay above that, we can keep trucking through yesterday's high in a bid to get up to the next Keltner around 306 and next key level 311. If we start to lose 301, 300, back to test 298, and if we lose that, we'll cascade on down back to moving averages. I'll look at them real quick, but not a lot of interest in any of these. But Roku decently strong yesterday, up at that first Keltner near its daily squeeze top. If market can keep trucking, Roku can get up to try to test that 100. And if market starts to look weak, Roku could go back to engulf. SPX. I'm going to skip to the end here. So on SPX, we have our key zone here. We opened, tried to get out, couldn't, fell on back. We also tested that trend line that I started on Monday. I've left it because we gave it out to get back to moving averages. Then we took off and got right back above it. So I left it to see if it would be a bounce point. And you can see it's continued to be a bounce point. It was basically just connecting the lows of Monday that we were trying to push off of, but then when we gave them out, we dumped. Since we have fought back above it, we keep bouncing at it. So I'm going to leave it there as another potential, level of support or trend line of support that if it gives out, we could see another dump. Let's see, today from where we'll be opening, that trend line might actually be above us. So that trend line might go away today, but let's see. We're in a pretty clear upward channel. We might be going sideways through that channel. So let's see if we pop and get back above it and keep trucking, or if we come back to test this zone. Let's see, slight gap up on ES. be opening slightly above that. Yeah, so, sorry, on SPX. For that zone to hold that we drew over on ES, if we zoom in, this little shaded region from pre-market high to midday, pre-market low to midday low, if we're going to go test that, then SPX will come back to test these two key levels. Because as you can see, that's where we bounced yesterday at opening low and that midday low. Hit this lower 39.28 and this 39.36. So if ES is going to take a dip to retest this zone before going higher, we'll see SPX retest this zone as well. But it looks like SPX is going to be opening above this daily Keltner. So let's see if we can get through yesterday's high around 39.75. If we do, that starts a gap fill zone that spans from 39.75 up to 40.20. So if we can start to break into that zone, we can potentially accelerate through 4,000 up to that 40.20. And it's not surprising that that's exactly where we stopped yesterday. We pulled up to that gap fill, came back, tried to get there again. So let's see if we can get into that gap zone today and push through it. If it continues to be resistance, we could slip back to this zone and the daily 50. If those give out, then it's back to 3,900. Tesla. Tesla reported yesterday on earnings. It was a good reaction. I know that they beat maybe some estimates, but then it was a miss on others. Overall, it's what's the reaction? It was decent, they're going up. And it's a little hard to see with the squeezes in place, but if we hover over this candle, it shot from my 744 right up to my 777 and then came back. So, obvious target is if they're going to continue to accumulate Tesla, it'll have to get up to test that 777, 780 psychological level, and then above that, we've got a number of levels to take out before getting to 800. We do have a daily and a 2-day squeeze top up above that we are going to open in. So it could be a slow grind up. It is the day after earnings. With a gap up, we could see a fade back before heading higher. If we lose 744, back to 718, back to 700. If we can hold 744, or at least just keep accumulating, it's these key levels above. And VIX. So VIX at least working a little better for us yesterday. We saw it reject 24.5 and go through the daily 200 at 24.14 and make it almost down to that 23.33 key level that I have in this daily squeeze bottom. So about 7 cents off. VIX caught a bounce when the market took a break and pulled back. But it rejected that daily Keltner, went back down to lows. Now we kind of got a little bit of a wedge going on VIX. I love this little pre-market wick right back near yesterday's lows. So let's see if once we start the cash session, we can go take out those lows, test our 23.3, maybe even start pushing into this daily squeeze bottom. Next key level, 22.5. But if market's going to take some profit taking and go down a little. We're going to see VIX get back over the daily 200, back over this Keltner, which both span to 24.14 to 24.25. Should we start to get through that, and then this 24.5, we could see the market slipping more. It would be a goal to get back to 25, where this daily 8 sits. In most of the sell-offs going on this year, VIX has come down to 25 as the market has a relief pop, and then it bounces at 25 and goes back to 30 for more selling. This is the first time in a while that we have been under 25 and that 24.5. So we need to stay under it for the market to continue higher. Once we start breaking back above 24.5, 25, we'll probably see the market reverting back to the mean and VIX reverting back to the mean as well. So that's it for today. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody. Just a reminder for folks, this is Thursday, so this is when we step into our free chat so that our free members can get a preview of what it's like. As you join our server, you can kind of only see this welcome section and this free chat. There we go. But as you sign up with us and subscribe, you end up seeing a lot more of the server, and especially our live trading section, where we distribute our beast tools every day, where we have futures trading, SPX specific, yada, yada, yada. And so every Thursday, we migrate our live trading room down to our free chat so that everybody can at least get a preview before they purchase of what it's like to join Predicted Trades, to trade with our traders day in and day out. Yesterday in our room, pretty much everybody was crushing it. We nailed the upside, we nailed the pullback, we hit it again to the upside. So, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to Predicted Trades or it's your first time watching, use the link in the description to join our Discord server and join us today in our free chat to trade right along with our traders and the rest of our paid members. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck today. And remember, no beast, no feast.